But he's already acquired human DNA, I protested. So what? You're saying if we kill it, it's murder? Rachel asked. Come on, Cassie, it's not a human any more than I'm a bear or you're a wolf, or I'm a big monkey, Marco added. Silence. Okay, so maybe Cassie does have a point, Jake said, obviously trying not to laugh. Nice, Marco smirked. Very nice, Prince Jake. Axe swiveled an eye stalk in Jake's direction. Prince Jake, Marco and Rachel do make a valid point. I too have acquired human DNA. Does this make me a human rather than an Andalite? Silence. Ponage! Point to Axe. Yes, Cassie, the mere presence of dormant human DNA is not enough to label something as human. Not in this sci-fi scenario, at least. I'm not even going to dignify that idea with 3 rambling paragraphs like I usually do. The Animorphs still have the matter of the helicopter to deal with, and the best plan they can come up with is causing a distraction while one of them comes up from behind to disable or destroy it, though making it land seems pretty unlikely. You know, birds get sucked into airplane engines and cause crashes all the time, I said quietly, tightening my grip on Jake's hand. Thanks out of the blue trivia. You hang around a bit until we need you. Marco eventually builds on the plan by figuring out the best way to stop the helicopter is to attack it from above. So you're saying we do a suicide run? Rachel said. Well, Jake began. No, Marco interrupted. Not a suicide run, a cartoon run. Oh man, I am so good. Listen, what does Wile E. Coyote do when he wants to squash the Roadrunner? He straps one of those Acme rockets to his back, Rachel said. Dive bombs him or something? Marco slapped his forehead and groaned. No, come on. Am I the only one educated in cartoon combat? We all stared at Marco. Oh, he drops an anvil on them. Don't you get it? We need to drop an anvil on the helicopter. Marco, you do know that all of Wile E. Coyote's plans fail, right? Maybe not the best source of inspiration out there, you know. Well, if that doesn't work, there was that one time Sylvester tried to kill Tweety Bird with a stick of dynamite. The Animorphs can't linger, though, because a wave of taxons is making its way through the forest. Cassie realizes that her new African buffalo morph is like a bajillion times better at combat than her old sneaky wolf. And then the Buffahuman, fully restored to its original form, joins in. Now, taxons, they have a lot of useful abilities. They are efficient swimmers and make great trackers. But when it comes to combat, they aren't exactly up to snuff. And when it comes against 2 African buffalo, well...
I'm the old pincushion man, terror of Balloonyland.
So the Buffahuman is hanging around the Animorphs, kind of docile around them, especially Cassie, treating them like a part of its pack. Cassie's still kind of rooting for the it's learning to be human, let's try and save it thing, but everyone else is kind of like, no. It's had access to human brain chemistry for an hour, and the best it can do is make mouth sounds that could almost maybe, but not really, indicate that it's learning language. You know, that thing that takes human babies years to learn. Look, I think the idea of having an African buffalo with morphing powers on the team would be pretty cool. Watching it gradually get more intelligent, being more useful for the team, eventually developing as a character. Now that would be worth breaking all the rules for. But if we can't have a decent run with David, there's no way the Buffahuman is sticking around. The Animorphs start making their way to the coast for plan. I got an idea from a cartoon and now we're doing it! However, they have to get across an expansive road with the morphing cube, and the place is crawling with controllers. The Animorphs try to make this fairly tricky plan of moving everyone but Marco across the road and Flymorph, having Marco lob the cube because he has the best throwing arm, and them catching it on the other side. But it all gets bungled when the Buffahuman just walks into the road like it owns the place, which, you know, it does. The Animorphs have to save it, so there's a tussle, and the Animorphs are surrounded, and Visitor 3 walks out into the open to gloat, only to get brushed by the Buffahuman, and just like Chapman, the Buffahuman acquires and morphs the Visitor all by accident. The Buffahuman actually manages to knock Visitor 3 out in a bit of impromptu tail dueling, and our heroes and freaks of various natures make it back to the woods bordering the beach. They find a choke point and realize they need to keep somebody there to hold the Yeerks back for a bit to set things up. So Cassie volunteers so that the Buffy-Human will follow her into battle. Now, Cassie may not be as ruthless as Rachel or as tactically savvy as Marco, but 2-ish years of first-hand combat experience is nothing to turn a nose up to, and I'm sure she can work out a decent strategy with dealing with. I wheeled, powered my short muscular legs, and with a loud snorting call to the buffalo, barreled to the edge of the drop-off and jumped. Or she could just jump off a cliff. I mean, I want her to jump off a cliff, but I question its usefulness here. So Visitor 3 just morphed into another one of his random monsters, and Cassie responded by immediately retreating off a cliff, along with a Buffy-Human. They both survive, healing their injuries through morphing. The Animorphs regroup, having not really accomplished anything. I'm actually kind of lost what this part of the plan was supposed to be, and they start discussing the ethics of killing the Buffy-Human again. It's not Chapman, Tobias said. Remember that, it's not Chapman. It's learning, I said, absently brushing a black ant from the morphing cube. It hit the ground and ran up my leg.
What a random detail. Perhaps I should just ignore it.
The Animorphs don't have the heart to kill the Buffy-Human right now, so they try to White Fang it instead, leaving it behind. Cassie falls behind because but soon finds herself witness to the worst nightmare you never had. Something was moving in front of me. I backed up, gaped at the ground in front of me. Something was growing, fast, black, bulging. 3 inches, 8 inches, now it was a foot high. It was an ant, antennae waving and pincers snapping. And it was getting bigger, 2 feet high, and counting. Demorph, I thought frantically, trying to scrabble away from the ant's sharp, snapping pincers. Demorph! And the ant was still growing, its arms and legs wavering, hair sprouting out from its bulby head. Hair? The tip of its top pair of legs swelled, and fingers erupted. Its segmented body melted and ran together, reshaping into a sturdy human form. Wide, human eyes popped from its head, flanking a strong, familiar-looking nose. Swoop! Swoop! Its pincers were jerked halfway back into its head, leaving the lethal tips spasming. And in between them, in some horrible, terrifying morphing disaster, the ant's face split vertically, and its lips formed, opened wide in a silent scream as gleaming white teeth erupted from the pink gums. Please, no! I was gazing at myself. I am keeping the bedroom light on for a month! So yes, an ant. The ant that was crawling around the morphing cube just a second ago is now morphing into Cassie. So, all the problems with the Buffy-Human, plus the fact that you need to picture an animal when morphing. This ant has neither the brain functions to do this, nor does it have an accurate picture of what Cassie looks like, but I guess it was worth it for all the crapped pants! Unlike the Buffy-Human, which is anthropomorphic enough for Cassie to have sympathy for it, Cassie sees this thing as just a sick monster. The Buffy-Human pops up to fight it, and since this is both a bug and Cassie, it goes down pretty quickly. It tries to demorph, but once small enough, Cassie just smashes it underfoot. You're not cuddly enough, therefore you should die. The buffalo looked at me, puzzled and uncertain again. I looked back, not knowing what to say or do. It gave a questioning snort and stepped closer. Thwack, 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 thwack. I have to go, I said, knowing it couldn't understand me. Thank you for saving my life. The buffalo's ears twitched, and then I knew what to say. You are good, I said softly. Its ears came forward, and it made a soft, almost friendly noise. The helicopter buzzed into sight. Tshoo! And then the Dracon beam blew up the buffalo. I can't take that last line remotely seriously. And then the Dracon beam blew up the buffalo. It's so random and blunt. It's like the author, be it Laura or K.A., realized they couldn't come up with a more poetic way to end this storyline, so we're just gonna randomly blow it up.
And then the Dracon beam blew up the buffalo.
So yeah, that happened. So we finally get to Plan Anvil, which should be called Plan the end of Megamorph number 1, because that's what it is. The Animorphs move out into the ocean in Dolphin Morph, dodging blasts from the helicopter and now a bug fighter, while Cassie flies into the sky, demorphs, and tries to morph into a whale fast enough to crash into the helicopter. Now, there's one key difference between this plan and the one used in Megamorphs number 1. In Megamorphs number 1, the Velix didn't have giant spinning blades on top of it. Now, if it was me, giant spinning blades would kinda be a deal breaker. To make stupid matters worse, Cassie isn't morphing fast enough as she falls, so she's about to be turned into sushi when out of the blue trivia to the rescue! Shook! I couldn't believe it! One of the gulls had been sucked into the helicopter's powerful jet engine intake like a hairball into a vacuum hose. Kaboom! The helicopter exploded in a raging ball of fire. Animorphs number 39. The one where random chance does all the hard things. So Cassie crashes into the ocean instead of a helicopter, and we end with the Animorphs returning to the shore and reflecting on all they've accomplished, which happens to be not a damn thing.
And then the Dragon Beam blew up the buffalo.
Post-book follow-up. Okay, we've all taken that in, now it's time to digest. This is not a good book. I don't think anyone can really argue that. But, I have a confession to make. I don't hate it. I don't even really dislike it. I don't exactly enjoy it, but I walked away from it with a kind of maybe appreciation for what it was trying to accomplish. The problem is that it was impossible to accomplish this thing without breaking a dump truck's worth of rules. See, I think this was an attempt to take the established elements of Animorphs and make a straight-up horror story out of them. There have been scary elements in Animorphs before, most notably descriptions of the Yeerk pool, and morphing has always had a major gross-out factor. But I think, and maybe I'm actually off base on this, but I think this was an attempt to do Animorphs as campfire horror story. I mean, the whole thing is about body horror. Alien technology creating monsters, things staring into the abyss and being radically changed by it. This is Animorphs at its most Lovecraftian, and ants suddenly being driven insane by becoming human is to scale with a human being awoken to cosmic horrors. If this could happen on this scale, what if one of our characters brushed up against something beyond our perception and found themselves morphing into something far more advanced and powerful than we can possibly comprehend? This is a book about showing us the dark side of the various science fiction concepts that we've been taking for granted. How often do regular readers just skim through morphing descriptions, get through all the repetitive bits to rush into the plot? I think this book wants to do for morphing what Jaws did for the beach and Psycho did for the shower. It wants you to start paying attention to these things again, because any minute the worst thing in the world is going to happen. The unfortunate part is that this is an idea that Animorphs cannot possibly sustain. It requires such a massive abandonment over established concepts. This isn't about forgetting an obscure detail that was only mentioned in one book published years ago. This is about breaking core rules of the series' main gimmick. Morph, it's right there in the title, and this book goes about fucking it over like nothing. It's 2 steps away from ignoring the 2-hour rule and letting everyone stay in morph all day without consequence. I think I might get why it happened. You have to take away these rules in order to make the morphing cube an eldritch horror that's just spreading unspeakable chaos across the countryside. But as I said before, if an idea is going to go against such established concepts so thoroughly, then it better be a damn good idea. I'm sure Laura and K.A. felt it was a good idea at first, but with the way things end so suddenly, the Buffy human being blown up out of the blue, the bird destroying the helicopter, the ant thing only lasting a small chapter, I don't think they had anything beyond that initial idea. They went, wouldn't it be cool if, but hadn't entirely thought out how to make an affecting, engaging narrative out of that idea, and so had to suddenly end things. With no payoff, then clearly going against the rules and breaking the reader's trust in the narrative was not a good idea at all. I am not in the camp that this is a total train wreck. I don't think it's the Plan 9 of Animorphs. Outside of some truly stupid Cassie moments, it's not bad prose, and the plot lends itself to the fast-paced chase narrative Laura seems to love. It's the idea. The idea was just dead on arrival, I'm afraid. I give number 39, The Hidden, a 4 out of 10.